Hello and welcome back to a gloomy new video on my channel. I apologize for any lighting changes, but it is winter in Germany and sunlight is a rarity. Anyways, it has been 3 months since I officially started to relearn Japanese, and I figured I would just keep you updated and share some of the realizations I had over the last couple of months. For anyone new to this channel or maybe slightly confused about my situation, it's not like I'm relearning Japanese from literally zero. I first started to learn Japanese back in 2017, majored in Japanese studies at university, and during that time also moved to Japan for a year to live with a Japanese host family. So for the first 4-ish years, I was studying Japanese pretty intensively. And then since around 2022, Japanese has been more of an on and off thing in my life. More off than on, to be honest. And due to the lack of consistency and effort on my part, I have forgotten a lot of things, such as kanji and vocabulary, but also my speaking and writing skills have declined a lot. But because I had been learning Japanese for 4 years before, my foundation is still really strong. So it's not like I'm sitting here reviewing des and mas conjugations or reviewing how the particles work. It's more about getting my reading speed back, about getting my previous kanji knowledge back, expanding my vocabulary and not always defaulting to just one word choice. It's more about expressing myself with more precision while also keeping in mind the situation that I'm in and just being more aware of the different types of Japanese that I need to speak in certain situations. Alright, with that out of the way, let me now share what I did over the last 2 months to improve my Japanese and get closer to that goal of mine. First of all, I did finish the book that I said I was gonna read in my last update video. It was, I think, 300 pages or something, and I'm so proud that I actually read through it in October. It is the first Japanese book I've read in a long time, so this is quite an accomplishment for me, and it was actually a really good book. I was kind of unsure of where it was going the first, 60 pages, but then the story turned out really interesting, and I think I'm gonna read more of this author's books. I also moved right on to the next book in November, which as of today I have not yet finished, but I'm like halfway through it. And that's not because it's difficult, but more because I just haven't made the time to sit down and read. But I hope to be done with it before I go to the US so that I can take a new book to the US and read it while I'm in the US. And that is it in terms of a reading practice. It's not the most, but I'm getting there. And for listening practice, I watched 2 anime. One was Little Witch Academia, the other one was Delicious in Dungeon. Just very light, very easy. I would usually watch them while eating, so I wasn't 100% focused on studying everything that was going on and like learning everything, but it was just good entertainment. And then most recently, I started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I think I'll just continue watching for a while. I also watched 2 movies, which I think both of them I watched in October because I don't remember watching any movies in November, but I might be wrong. Anyways, the first one I watched is called My Oni Girl, and what a weird movie. Not a recommendation is the only thing I'm gonna say. Anyways, the other one I watched is Spirited Away, obviously such a classic, and I have this memory of me trying to learn vocabulary from Spirited Away like 6 or 7 years ago when I first started learning Japanese. And it was so difficult, it was so incomprehensible. I had to replay the same scene like 10, 15 times to understand the words that they were saying. And then not having that struggle anymore now is, I don't know, that's just insane. And that's it for anime. I watched all of these anime with Japanese subtitles except for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and having subtitles obviously greatly reduces the difficulty of any show because I can just click on any word I don't know, see what it means, and then move on with my life, right? So to really practice my Japanese listening ability, I also started watching Japanese YouTube, which me and Japanese YouTube are in a very difficult relationship. I have found educational/edutainment style videos that I like, but to this day I'm struggling to find just everyday vloggers that I would enjoy watching. And I don't really know what it is. I can't pinpoint it, but the Japanese style of making videos is just not very appealing to me.
どうしたんですか何かあったんですか
It feels like on the one hand, you have the people with the crazy sound effects. They have crazy writings on screen and fonts and colors, and they're super expressive. But then the video itself is not very interesting, as in it's not very visually pleasing. On the other hand, you have the people that make very beautiful videos, but they don't ever make a voiceover. They don't ever talk. All you get is text on screen. And then when I do find a channel I like, they haven't uploaded since 2022. So yeah, it's still a bit of a struggle, but obviously I also haven't been on Japanese YouTube in a long time, so maybe there are some really cool creators that I'm just not aware of. I think I'll ask some of my friends for recommendations, or if you have any channels that you could recommend, then feel free to share them. Anyways, all that to say, I'm also occasionally watching YouTube to practice listening without subtitles. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention earlier that I haven't made any new sentence cards from any of the things I watched, other than maybe like 10 cards per movie that I watched. But I know I said that I would find something new after being done with Frieren, but I don't know, I just couldn't be bothered. So I haven't been learning new words in Migaku memory every single day, so that my backlog of new cards has actually lasted me for a surprisingly long time. But I am on my last few cards now, so I have to find something to mine, otherwise I will just not have anything new to learn. And I'm thinking I'm probably just gonna take a day or two to literally binge watch a show, get any sentences that I can and make cards out of them, so that I don't have to worry about making new sentence cards while I'm in the US. Okay, and then one last thing before we move on to the realizations that I had over the last couple of weeks. I started tracking my hours in early October, and I think I missed the first couple of days or so, but I don't think that matters too much. I just wanted to get a feeling for how much I could do and what's realistic for me. So in October, I tracked a little more than 30, like 33 or so hours, and that is an hour a day, which is honestly really good. That does not include the time I spent on Migaku memory doing my flashcards, because to me, a day on which I do only Migaku memory and nothing else is not a day on which I studied or learned Japanese, because I know that if I went by that criteria, I would cheat myself into thinking I did way more than I actually did. And I know that because of that, I haven't taken my flashcards as seriously as I should. But I would honestly rather have it that way than kind of delusioning myself into thinking that I'm learning a lot, that I'm being really consistent with my Japanese, when in reality I'm just spending a few minutes every day clicking through my flashcards. But this is just my criteria by which I want to measure my Japanese consistency. So if you want to count your flashcard time to your total Japanese study time, that is totally fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that was a bit of a side tangent, but in October I spent 33 hours interacting with Japanese. Of those 33 hours, 13 were spent reading. Then in November, I spent roughly 40 hours, which is about an hour, 20 minutes a day. And of those 40 hours, I only spent 4 hours reading, which I think explains why I haven't finished the book yet. Okay, now that we're all on the same page, by the way, if anyone's still watching, props to you. I'm just kind of treating this like a personal language diary, and I just want to look back in 2 years and see what was up. So thank you for showing interest and being a part of this. Anyways, I did some thinking recently about my Japanese learning, and I came to a few realizations, in no particular order. For a few days in November, I challenged myself to do as much Japanese as I possibly could, because in this tracker app there's a leaderboard and I wanted to be number 1. So the first day, I immersed for close to 8 hours and I hated every single second of it. It was so bad, I don't know how people do it. But I would wake up, watch a YouTube video, listen to a podcast while doing chores, watching some more YouTube videos, then watching an anime, and at some point it just started to feel noisy. Like I was missing the silence that I have when I'm just being by myself with my own thoughts. I did a few more days of not quite as much intensity, but still pushing myself to do more than I usually would, and it just, generally speaking, wasn't enjoyable. So, lesson learned. I will not force myself to spend more time with Japanese just for the sake of spending more time with Japanese. I would much rather continue having a pretty sustainable routine where I'm pretty focused on what I'm interacting with and then maybe add a little more reading onto that rather than trying to hit an arbitrary amount of hours every single day. Also, trust me, if there's something I enjoy, I will binge the shit out of it. It's just a matter of when I find something I enjoy. And that actually kind of connects to the next point, which is that I should just go back to watching dramas again. I've never been much of an anime watcher, I don't read manga, I also don't really play games, and I explained to you the YouTube situationship. Dramas, however, I only have good memories of. So going forward, I will try to incorporate those rather than other media into my routine a little more. And who knows, maybe I will end up watching dramas for 8 hours a day. Completely unrelated to the first 2 points, but I've been wanting to study again, as in sit down with a textbook, mark things, write down phrases, do exercises, that kind of stuff. I don't know what it is. Immersion learning is great and all, but it feels very passive. Maybe receptive is the better term, because that's really what immersion is, right? You're sitting there looking at things. Ideally, you're thinking about them as well, obviously, but you're looking at things and the information flow is always into your brain. Does that make sense? And I'm missing the part where the information flow goes out of your brain, where you get to test your knowledge, where you get to apply it to real world situations, rather than just endlessly hoping that your brain is processing everything correctly. And I know some people don't care to practice their productive skills to be able to apply their knowledge rather than just have it sit there passively, but to me that's always been important. And that doesn't only go for like tests and exercises, but also for conversations. I've always enjoyed speaking Japanese and using Japanese, and I want to practice that more as well. So I recently downloaded Tandem again. Hopefully I can find some exchange partners or at least get some conversations going and maybe hop on a few voice calls or whatever. And then with the textbook study, I believe I will wait until I'm back in Germany in the new year, but that's definitely something I want to do, and I'm really looking forward to it. Another thing kind of related to the previous productive skill points, I noticed that my handwriting is slow because I haven't written anything in Japanese for probably well over a year. And I'm not talking about the kanji here. I mean, my kana are incredibly slow, it's embarrassing, and I really want to be able to at least write those at a really decent speed again. So I found this notebook with nicely sized squares that I will probably use for like dictations or anything, just to get my reading speed back up and also practice my kanji writing while I'm at it. Okay, we made it to the last point, and I don't mean to offend anyone with this, but I find that I have to be really careful with what language learning communities I am a part of and how much time I spend interacting with the people in them. Because I don't think anyone has bad intentions, but some people are quite extreme in their opinions, and they think of their personal learning style as, we have a really good word for this in German, it's selbstverständlich, which essentially just means that they take their learning style for granted, they think everyone should be on board, and they think it's the only way to learn a language. I don't like that, and I have to be really careful that I don't make that a me problem, but rather just focus on myself, what works for me, what I enjoy, and don't let other people's opinion lead me astray. So that's what I've been up to and thinking about. Here's again a list of my goals for December, which I don't think any of them are too crazy, honestly, other than the fact that I wanted to reach 150 hours by the end of the year, which is probably not going to happen considering we're at 75 hours now with less than a month to go, but that is okay. I'm not sure when I'm going to make another Japanese update video, but I don't think it makes sense for at least another 2 months, so maybe we'll see each other at the 6-month mark. If I'm still studying Japanese at that point, that is. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's where I'm currently at. I hope you're using the last few weeks of this year to get those New Year language learning habits rolling, or not. But I will see you for the end of the year reflection and the 2025 language goal video.